Welcome to Tech Brothers with Amir. Today we are going to learn about lookup transformation and especially the modes in lookup. So we will learn full cache mode, partial cache mode and no cache mode. What we will do, we will create a simple SSIS package in which we will read the data from a flat file, and then we will get the data in the lookup from a SQL Server table, and we will find out if there is only matching record, then we want to load that record, and if there is no matching, we will redirect to the no match output. It's a very simple package. So we will be comparing the data from the source to the lookup reference data set. Next, we are going to enable a SQL Server Profiler, so we can see that how many times the SSIS package send the query to read the data from the SQL Server when we select different modes of lookup, as we will be reading the data from SQL Server table in the lookup transformation. Next, we will experiment and repeat our execution for full cache, partial cache and no cache, and then observe the results and understand these modes in detail. Now let's go and create SSIS package, but before we do that, let me show you the source file we are going to use. So we have customer ID, customer name, street and city and region. So here what you see on a customer name, we want to look up against a table that we have in the database. So we want to say if this incoming record from the file does match with the SQL Server table column value, that's a customer name column, then just load that record or let it go to the matching output, and if that does not match, send to the no match. We are not selecting any column from here, or the goal is just to make sure the values does exist in the reference table or reference data set before we load the record from the source. Now we need to go to SSDT, SQL Server Data Tools or bids and create a SSIS package. So we are in SSIS packages tab, new SSIS package. Bring the data flow task here, as we will be reading the data from the flat file source. We go to the sources, and here we have flat file source. We are going to make a connection for the flat file. Browse, select the file. Now column names in the first data row, that's correct. Go to columns, all the columns are comment correct. Go to advanced, change the data type of these columns. So for customer ID we have it should be integer. For customer name, varchar 50 is fine. Street varchar 50 is fine. City varchar 50 is fine. State is fine, and region code is only 2 characters, so I changed that one. Now we go to preview. Everything looks good. Retain null values from the source as null values in the data flow. That means if we are getting some blank values in source and we want to convert them to the null in the flat file output, we can use this option. Hit columns. We are good. Now let's bring the lookup transformation. So we go to common transformations, bring the lookup transformation and open it by double clicking, and then here we have full cache, partial cache and no cache. So we will experiment with this part of a lookup. For now, select redirect rows to no match when we are handling the rows, as if there would be matching record, we want to send them to the matching, and if there would be no matching, then we will be sending to the no matching output. Go to connection, make a new connection, and here we have the connection already. I'm going to delete this one, create a new one, so you can see what we have to provide. We will be providing SQL Server name or instance name, and then we have to provide the database name, and check the connection is working fine. Hit OK. Here you can select the entire table or you can write a query. I always recommend writing a query because you do not need all the columns from the table. So in this case we need only the customer name. So we copy paste our query, paste it here, and provide the column name what we need. So it is a customer name. Preview the data is coming correct, and you can see that there is a duplicate data. So we have Ahmed 3 times here, and there is only one M Raza. So let's see, hit OK or close, go to columns. Now we will be mapping the incoming column, that is our source columns coming from the flat file, to the lookup reference data, that's our customer name. So if you see here, if I try to map these, it will throw me error, cannot map the input column customer name to the lookup column customer name because the data type does not match. So what I have here in the table, actually these are n worker, I have defined them when I was creating a table, and you can go ahead and take a look. So you go to the customer 2 table. Let me refresh the table list, and here we have customer 2. If we go columns, and then we have customer name and worker 6. So that's what it is. Now what we can do, we can convert that to the n worker in the our query here in the lookup. We can say cast as n worker, and we can say 6 as customer name, and go back to the columns and now map it. It should be working just fine. And if you have watched my movie, if you have watched my video regarding the warnings, this is the place it should place send a warning, say okay, customer name is coming as a worker 50, and you are trying to put into the or match to the worker or 6 or n worker 6, but we would not see any visible warning. But as it can work, it is expectation, like okay, you are expecting the data type you have defined is worker 50, but you will not be getting more than 6 character for your customer name. So if there are values come in, they will be going to no match anyways. So here we go to last option, we have full cache, and we have everything set. What we're going to do now, we bring a 2 multicast here, and then we are gonna join our outputs. So output match output will be going to the 1 multicast, not the lookup. Why I'm using multicast? Because I can put data viewer, or I can just use them as a dummy here, and I don't have to write to the SQL table. Otherwise I have to create a SQL table for the entire load. So I really don't need to load the data anywhere. I just want to see the lookup functionality, so I don't care about that. You can put in SQL Server table, or you can write to the file, whatever you like. Now as our lookup is in full cache mode, what does that mean to us? When we have a lookup in the full cache mode, it will read all the records from the source table and then put into the memory before even start processing or matching from the source rows. So this is what is going to happen. Let's go back quickly and enable profiler. Go to tools, SQL Server Profiler, and then you hit connect. Go to the templates. I will choose the tuning, and then here in the event selection you will see the RPC completed, RPC statement, and batch completed, and here you have column filters. We are only interested to get the queries for the database called test, because that's what we are using in the lookup. So I have put the filter test, database name is equal to test, and hit OK. Now we run it. If you see that there isn't any query I'm running in SSMS or even in the Visual Studio or bids or SSDT, so there isn't anything coming right now. Now we can go ahead and run our SSIS package and see what happened. I'm taking it very slow and telling you all the details. I want to spend time on this video. It is very important. And now you see that the lookup transformation has processed 4 rows. Even they were some duplicate records, it has processed all 4 of them, and it has it is telling us, okay, it has a cached total of 4 rows, and the number of unique rows added to the cache is 2. So it is processing all of them, but in the cache there are only 2 unique rows or values are there. Now we can go back here on the SQL side and see profiler, and if we look at here, what we see, so SP statement completed, and that's called select this customer name from this table, customer 2. So that's the statement we see here. That's the only statement is completed. So it built the statement first and then it completed here. So we do not see multiple statements. If we are coming here, these are the statements is just starting and all that, but it is only one statement at the end that's completed. So it's not passing the values or anything, so just it is running one statement and getting all the records to the cache. So if we go back here, let me see if it tells us number of times it tried to connect to the database. So anyways, it's connected only one time and ran that statement and got all those results for us in the memory, and we can use that against the flat file source. Now what we are going to do, we are going to run for the partial cache. So right now how many rows we have? We have 15 rows here, and let me go back, and when you will run for partial cache, you are going to access the database multiple times. So that depends on number of rows we have in the source and how uniquely they are. So first of all, let's say if we have the same record here, as we are selecting Amir, we are going to query our database for Amir. So this is the only column we are querying against. In the lookup we have only the customer name. So what is happening here, each time we get the value from the source, it go to the database. Once it go to the database, and then it will bring the matching record in the memory, and then it keep that record in the memory and expect that next row might match with this already cached value. If it would not match, then it go back to the database and bring a new value. So that's how it will keep building the cache and bring in the new records in the cache, and we will be using against the source first, and if there is no value available, it will go back to the database. So that's how it is going to work. So if I show you here, you will take a look. For Amir, it's going to go and grab the record, and the next time it's not going to go to the SQL Server table, and it will just find the value in the cache. So it will have, okay, for next Amir it will not go to database because the value is already existing there, and then when mraza will come, it will go to the database and bring that value if there is a value existing. So in our case there is a value existing for mraza, and next what will happen, when next time Amir come, even after 3 razas, so still the value is in cache, so it will use that, and then again it will keep using for this one. Now let's do this experiment and take a look. Close this one, close the file, change to the partial cache, hit OK. Let's run this one, and you will also see information in the output as well. So if you see here, it is saying total number of data rows processed is 9. So we are reading 9 rows from our flat file, and let me show you here very good information that I wanted to show you. It is saying the lookup has performed the following operation: process 8 rows, okay, because we are getting 8 rows from here, and then what is happening, issue 2 database commands only. Why? To the reference database. Why it is issuing only 2 SQL commands? Because there are only 2 unique values here. So when we have Amir, and we have Raza. So it does not need to go to the database every time because the values are already existing. If I will change this one to the Robert, let me show you in Profiler, and then we will change it. Next part, it is saying and performed 6 lookups against cache. So as the values were in cache, so and it did not need to go to the database again and again, it performed the lookup against already cached value. So first time it cached the Amir, it went to the database and then cached this value, especially this column, what we are selecting from the lookup table. Here in the lookup we are selecting only customer name. So it found that, and then what happened, it cached that, it kept getting the value for this one and this record and this record and this record from the cache. Next time it went for Raza to the database. So there are 2 queries we sent to database, one for Amir and one for Raza, and then these were cached as the values were found in the database, and the next time any value came from the source, it was able to find a match in the cache. So it didn't go to database again and again. Okay, let's go back here and take a look on this query, and let me show you here. If you see here, this one is Amir, and that's what it is going to the database, and next is completed, and it is as a rate of P1 parameter. So it made a parameter because we are selecting the customer name from the table, and we are matching on the customer name, so it took as a reference. And when the incoming value or source value came as Amir, so it replaced that value here and then run that query against the database. And next, when it find the value for incoming value coming for Raza, it ran this statement against the database. So that's what it did. It ran only 2 statements against the database, and we can see here in the query as well. That's intelligent, but every time you have different record coming from the source file, that has to go to the cache. If it is it has to run a query against the SQL server if the value is already not cached. Now let me change the file a little bit and show you what happened. Now if I change this value to the Robert, now when we run this one and maybe change this one as well to Raza instead of Raza, now we have 4 values here. We have Amir, that's a kind of duplicate. We have Raza, that's duplicate. We have Raza and Robert. And if we run this one in a partial cache, it is going to run for 4 times, as there are 4 unique rows. So if you see here, it should 4 database SQL statements to the database, and it has processed 8, but also it has performed 4 lookup using cache. As it cached the first record for Amir, then next it was able to use that value for these 2 rows, and the same thing happened. First it cached for Raza, and then it was able to use the Raza. When the second source record came, it was able to use from the cache. So that's what we learned here. With the no cache, if there are values, it will go try to find out in the database. If it will find it, it will put in cache, and then it will use that for next incoming source records from the cache. If there is no value existing for that one, it will go back. So let's take a look on this one. So for Robert, you can see it went back and get that. For Raza, Raza, it went back and get that, and then for Raza it went back and get it, and for Amir it went back and get it. Now we don't have any Robert here, so you don't see the Robert here, you don't see Raza here as well. And if I will go ahead and make a change here, I will have another Robert here. So what do you think? As there is no matching for Robert, it will query twice to the database. It will not put this there is no Robert for the lookup table, so it can't put into cache. So each time a value coming from the source that does not have matching value in the reference data, it has to go to the SQL Server or any other OLEDB or relation database you are using in the lookup. So let's go run this one, and now we have two Roberts at the end. It will not be able to use those values. So you see here, issue 5 database commands, and if you go back in the profiler, we see it queried for Robert, it did query for Robert, and then query for Raza, it did query for Raza, and it query for Amir. So you see that 5 queries it ran with different parameters, but the last ones are for Robert. It was not able to cache because there is no value in the lookup table that it can cache for Robert. So it has to go every time to the table and try to find, and if there isn't any value, it will be going to the no match. So that's how it will be building the cache for matching records, and if available it will use from cache, if not it will go to the database every time. Next, what we are going to do, we are going to use a no cache. When we say no cache, each record what we get that will go to the database and try to find the matching record. So it is not using the memory in the SSIS as we have seen in the full cache. It put everything in the memory and use it, and then in partial cache it kept building the cache with the matching record and use it. In no cache, it will go to the SQL Server for each of the record. But there is a one difference. It will go to the SQL Server, but if there are values right after each other, it will be able to use the last value. So here, if you see Amir 3 times come in here, it is not going to go 3 times to the SQL Server. It will just go for the first one and match Amir on the lookup reference data from the SQL Server table and bring that record, and next time when it has the Amir, it will use that value. But if the values are coming right after each other, it will keep only one value or the row for the cache. It will not keep building it. So if Raza comes here, Raza and all, and at the end you have Amir, it has to go back to the database and use it. So let's go and take a look. Now run our SSIS package with no cache. And here you will not be seeing a whole lot information like the way number of time is went to database and all that. I don't see that here. I was trying to find out. I don't think so I'm missing anything, but in no partial cache, at least it give you more information, how many times it went to the database and how many values it used from the cache. But here I don't see that much. Now we have to come back to the SQL Server Profiler and start from here and say, let me find out the very first value it used. So here you can see that Amir was the first value it used, and then next that it was just building a query it completed, and statement, this is a statement, it was placed with @Amir. Next you see that it did not run again for Amir, it went for Raza. So that's how, if you see our file, I told you if it will try to match for Amir, it find a match, and then it is going to keep only one value or row in the memory. So it was keeping Amir, so it used next time it find Amir, it used it, next time it find Amir, it used that value from the cache, and then it came to the Raza because that was different. Now we have two Razas, so you will see there is only one query it made to the SQL Server. Let's go back and take a look. Here you will see only Raza and then in statement, and now you will see Amir again. So it did not use the cache for Amir again because the last row it was saved, it had saved was Raza, and then Amir came after that. So sorry, this is different file, sorry, here, so right here. So the last value was Raza, and when Amir came again, it did not use that. If Amir would be here on right after another these three values, it will not go to the database. So that's what I'm trying to tell. If it will find the last matching record and in the next matching you have the same values, then it is going to use the previous whatever it is available in the cache. So it's keeping one value or the row in the memory, and if the value does change for the query, and it has to go to SQL Server and get that value again. So it is a kind of every time, I will say it is very expensive process every time it does go back to the SQL Server and get that value. So if you see Robert here, it is going to the SQL Server table and getting the value. Now let's do the last experiment. As I was telling you, I here if we have Amir here and then again Amir here right after Robert, you will see that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like if one value is different, and that's how the data you will have it. You will not have hundreds of thousands of the same values right after each other. So there is, if you are using no cache, you have chances like you for each of the row you are going back to the SQL Server and running that query. So this is running pretty much for each of the row you are going to have from the source and go back to the SQL Server and run it. It might be a good idea when you have a very small data set coming from the source, maybe 100 200 records, and you have 20 30 million maybe 40 million records, and you don't want to put all the records in the memory and or use the full cache, because you have very small data set coming from the source, and it is okay to run maybe 50 or 10 or 20 in those SQL statements directly on the 20 million or 40 million records, instead of bringing 40 million records in the memory and by using full cache and then use that. So it depends. I will have another video on where I will explain which cache transformation we should be using, but coming from the detail you have learned in this video, you can make decision by yourself as well. You understand how exactly these modes work. So let me do one more thing last time. So for these three, okay, it will go run very first and get the matching record. So there is a matching record, and keep that and use them from cache for these two records. For Raza it will go, okay, and then for Raza it will go next. It will go for first Raza and find the matching record and then use for the next record here, and finally next it will go for Amir. It will not have a matching record because last record it has Raza in the memory, so it will go to database to get the value, and then for Robert it will go, and then again for Amir it has to go because the last value is Robert that we have saved or queried against database. So let's go back, and with that we are going to end our video. Start the package. Let's come back to the profiler, and now we are going to take a look. So right now what we see here, the very first is running for Amir, and that's correct. Next time it is just it find a value in the cache, so it is going for the Raza. So next if we see that it is going for Raza, and next if right after Raza it is going for Raza, it will find the value as we have the value in the table. So it is only running one, as there are two right after there is Raza right after the first one, so it will run only one statement, and then it has to run three statements because each value is different. So if you see here, it is running for Amir, and then it is running for Robert, and that's how it will run. I think so. I did not save this value here. That's the one reason. Let me see if I'm saving this value. Now we saved it. The last one I was expecting to be working from. Let me see. We have Robert, and then if we query Amir, because Amir is the last one after Robert. So run this one now. It should go for Amir at the end because the last value is Robert. Okay, one thing I missed it here. If you guys see, the last is the Robert. So in why? Because there is no matching record for Robert, so it was not able to overwrite in the memory for Robert. So it was still keeping the last record Amir. So that's why it did not go for the second time. Even there is a one record between them, but there is no matching record for this record in the in the lookup table. So it could not find it, so it kept Amir, and then that's why for the last it did not go back to the database. So if we will change this one to Raza, let's say it find that, now it will go for sure because it has found the value, and now for this Amir it will be overwritten by this, and then it has to go to get the value from database. So let's run this one more time. I don't know, somehow I like experimenting in front of you guys and some show you all those outcomes. Even I never came when I do demo by myself and learn it and say, okay, this is how it should work, and then when you are doing on the video, sometimes you have different scenarios. So here you see Amir, here you will see Raza, and here you will see Amir again. So if you want to take from the top again, this is the first Amir, and then you have Raza. Open the file. Sorry, this is really slow video, that's what I'm making, but I want to take time. So first Amir, then Raza, then Raza here, and then it has Amir from here, this one, and then next matching it will find for Raza, that will be overwritten in the cache. So for last Amir it has to go to the database. So if you go here for Raza, and the last one it ran for Amir. So if it will find a matching record, it will bring and put in memory, and then use that for the next record. If it will not find a matching record for the next one, it will keep that matched value till it will find the next matching, and it will use that matching value in the memory or cache. So thanks very much for watching this video, and I hope you learned something out of this, and you can make use of these modes, and you can understand how exactly they work and how beneficial they can be, or how expensive they can be, depending on the resources you have. Like you have for full cache, you have tons of memory on your system, you never use full cache, you always use no cache or partial cache. So you can maybe make use of a full cache when you have a lot of memory, and put every record in the memory and start using that. And when it comes to no cache or partial cache, when you have small data sets, and instead of bringing millions of records in the memory, maybe it is okay to go back and run those queries against your database and bring the results back. So that totally depend upon your data. So you study your data, and by having the knowledge of these modes, select the best that works for you. Thanks once again, and I will see you in next video.